Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're embarking on a really fascinating journey straight into the architect's mind of sociology. We're going to be looking at the exact step-by-step roadmap for how sociologists actually investigate society. And I want you to kind of think of this whole process like building a highly functional, really complex machine from individual cutouts. If you just throw the pieces together randomly, the machine just isn't going to work, right? But if you order those cutouts perfectly, if you design your project with real intent, you can uncover some absolutely incredible truths about how human beings interact. So we are going to build that machine together today, literally piece by piece. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our visual flowchart for designing a hypothetical sociological study today. We've got 5 steps. 1. The foundation, topic and aim. 2. Making a testable prediction. 3. The who and the how. 4. Operationalization, measuring the abstract. And finally 5. Testing and launching. So, starting right off with section 1, the foundation, topic, and aim. Moving into the first crucial steps of our project, we have to establish exactly what we're looking at and why it actually matters. Every functional project begins by pinpointing a specific area of society, right? That's step 1, selecting an interesting, relevant sociological topic. But a broad topic just isn't enough to drive the machine's initial design. We immediately have to move to step 2 and set a clear research aim that explains the investigation's overall purpose. Think of this aim as the ultimate compass for the researcher. It gives you a strict direction and dictates exactly what information you're going to need to collect as we move forward. At this stage, you can almost hear the researcher's inner monologue. The design basically comes down to 2 foundational questions. What aspect of society do I want to investigate? And what am I trying to find out? These questions are the core building blocks. They really force you to take this massive, chaotic world we live in and narrow it all down to a precise, laser-focused objective. Let's anchor this with our running case study. For example, let's say our aim is to investigate how social media affects friendships among teenagers. Notice how a massive, super broad topic, like youth culture or the whole internet, suddenly becomes a highly specific, targeted research aim. That transition right there gives us our precise marching orders. Which brings us to section 2, making a testable prediction. We're moving into the next phase of our flowchart now, where we take that aim and turn it into a concrete, measurable expectation. In other words, a hypothesis. By definition, a hypothesis is a clear prediction that can be tested using research evidence, suggesting a possible relationship between 2 variables. And crucially, whether this prediction is ultimately supported or rejected by the eventual findings of the study, it's going to generate valuable sociological data. It's like putting a structural load on your newly built machine just to see if it holds up. Emphasizing this, the critical key question here for the researcher is, what do I predict the research will show? You really have to put a stake in the ground at this point. You're taking your initial aim and forcing yourself to articulate the exact outcome you expect to uncover once all the data is eventually processed. And this brilliantly illustrates how we do that. Looking at our social media example again, we might hypothesize teenagers who spend more time on social media have fewer face-to-face interactions with their friends. We just took a broad aim and transformed it into a highly testable relationship between variables. Variable A is the time spent on social media, and variable B is the amount of face-to-face interactions. It's totally clear, specific, and totally testable. Moving right along to section 3, the who and the how. Now we're transitioning into the logistical stage of our roadmap. We have to decide exactly who we're studying. Posing the inner monologue question, who do I want my research to focus on, introduces this concept of the target population. Basically, this is the entire group of people the sociologist actually wants to study. So, what does that look like? Well, target population examples could be all Year 10 students in a specific school, or maybe parents with children under 16, or teachers in secondary education. The point is, researchers must explicitly decide on populations like these before a single piece of data collection begins. You have to ensure that your future findings actually apply to the exact group you're trying to understand. Once the who is firmly locked in, asking this next key question, how will I collect my evidence, bridges us into selecting a research method. It challenges you to consider your fundamental approach. Like, are you going to act as a positivist seeking hard, objective, quantitative data? Or will you take an individualist approach to gather deep, qualitative, subjective meanings? Your underlying philosophy here completely dictates the tool you're going to use. And you have plenty of distinct method options to choose from. Things like questionnaires and surveys, interviews, observations, experiments, case studies, or content analysis. But here is the absolute golden rule. The chosen tool must perfectly align with answering your original research aim. Like if you want statistical trends on social media usage, a questionnaire is probably best. But if you want to know how teens deeply feel about their online friendships, an in-depth interview is for sure the superior choice.
All right, let's jump into Section 4, Operationalization, Measuring the Abstract. We are now introducing the most complex, yet totally vital gear in our research machine. So the crucial point is operationalization, which is precisely turning an abstract idea or concept into something specific that can be measured or observed. This is basically your secret weapon for dealing with messy, invisible human concepts. We absolutely have to translate the abstract into the measurable, because it is the only way to ensure clear and actually useful evidence is collected. Channeling our researchers' inner voice again, we systematically tackle this by asking, how will I measure the ideas I am investigating? You can't just hand someone a survey and simply ask, hey, are you experiencing a high degree of social cohesion? People literally won't know what you mean by that. You have to translate the abstract sociology into everyday reality.
For instance, take the concept of happiness. It's a completely abstract feeling, right? But by measuring the concept of happiness by asking participants to rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, it instantly becomes concrete. You've made an abstract feeling highly numerical and entirely measurable for your data analysis. It perfectly illustrates the concept. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Testing and Launching. We're in the final stages of our structural build now, where we make sure our carefully ordered design actually works in the real world. We have to pose this essential question. Does my research design work effectively, or does it need improving? Listen, no researcher gets it perfect on the first try. That makes a pilot study, which is essentially a small-scale trial run before the main event, completely non-negotiable. Let's move to and see how this builds. A great pilot study example is testing a questionnaire with just 5 students before blasting it out to the whole year group. Doing this trial run is an absolute lifesaver. It catches problems with confusing questions or vague instructions super early, so improvements can be made and the final launch goes off without a hitch. After a successful pilot, we ask the final inner monologue question that initiates the actual implementation phase of our fully built design. How will I carry out my research and collect my data? The machine is fully built, all the gears are well oiled, and now it's finally time to flip the switch. Implementation involves executing your plan exactly. In our running example, this means full rollout, distributing that finalized questionnaire to 100 students across several schools. You are finally gathering that hard evidence according to the plan from your specific target population so it can be analyzed later to either support or reject that hypothesis you made way back at the start. And there you have it, the complete roadmap to research design. We've built the whole machine from the ground up, starting with just a tiny spark of an idea and ending with rigorous data collection. So I want to end this explainer with a provocative question directly from our source material today, kind of challenging you to apply this new mental roadmap. If you were to create a research project, what would you like to study? Think about what actually makes you curious. Apply these steps, and hey, maybe you'll be the one making the next great sociological discovery. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep questioning the world around you.